Hi there, it's MrWarrenHayes. It is time for the AEW Dynamite review right here on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes. If you're listening to this right now here on youtube.com, why don't you go ahead and leave a like or a subscription on top of that? That would be very appreciated. You can also listen to this on your favorite podcast application. The audio is out there as well. 5-star ratings on Spotify and 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts are tremendous helps. All little things that help the podcast grow, especially, and it's especially appreciated when I am able to, when I get these little tidbits that do help grow the podcast. When I do my reviews on the night of, I'm doing this in instant reaction mode as opposed to doing it, really recording it the next day. I knew my Thursday was going to be busy. I said it on the Mr. Warren Hayes Show podcast, which, you can come see live every Tuesday. It records live every Tuesday or listen on demand on Wednesday. So I knew that Thursday was going to be busy. And as things were going along, my Thursday just got busier and busier and busier. And it was like, look, I knew the podcast was going to be late, but then I was like, look, this is going to be really late. And maybe I'm just going to be like, so exhausted and fed up that I'm going to get in front of the microphone to record something. And then I'm going to be miserable. I'm just going to be miserable and angry and, just tired and cranky, as opposed to now where I'm just cranky. Because, okay, listen, as I was watching the show, as I was watching tonight's Dynamite, I tried to separate everything that happened, all the discourse that happened throughout the day regarding, on one hand, regarding the announcement at the upfronts, and then all the stuff with CM Punk. I'm not even sure exactly how I should find where I should position myself in this, because everything is so wild, and there are elements that I don't even want to talk about here on this, on my podcast, because I don't think it's interesting. In case you don't know, maybe you're all away from this, maybe you're all away from this stuff, and good for you. Stay away. He had some more blow-ups on the internet, and there were things that happened where at the upfronts for TNT, there was a different version of the press release that was put out, where CM Punk was announced on the original release, but then was removed from that list. And then people started speculating as to why, and then journalists started digging up information, and then it turns out that there was a situation that had to do with a steal, where CM Punk had requested, in all these negotiations, whatever. And I'm making a very long story short, and one that is still probably going to get fleshed out over the next few days. This is still very, very warm. These are all reports and speculations and allegations, right? Apparently, in all the negotiations that CM Punk had been doing with Dynamite, AEW, I should say, one of his conditions popped up that he wanted a steal to return, and then there was some confusion as to whether a steal was returning, and that the reason that CM Punk was taken off the press release is because a steal was not hired back, or that's what people are assuming, or that's the one part of the reports going around, that he wasn't being brought back. So then CM Punk put his foot down. He's like, well, if you're not bringing my best friend back, I'm not moving forward, kind of thing. And so everyone got the impression that CM Punk was holding everyone hostage, was holding AEW hostage at at this event here. And it's like, well, no. And then Toni last minute had to pull the thing. Whereas, generally speaking, and I know this because, and it turns out, here's the thing. Then it turns out I learn from my circle of knowledge, of contacts, my haunts, if you will. I find out that as it stands right now, the plans for CM Punk's return have not been changed. Now, that's pretty much the verbiage that was used. Okay, the plans for CM Punk's return have not been changed. That's the verbiage that was used. That's what I've been told. And I think since then there have been reports. I think Fightful, Sean Ross Sapp, I think has corroborated that, has put it out actually and saying, the plans haven't changed. We're still at the same spot. So for all intents and purposes, I think what happened in this circumstance here was that the press release that was put out was a revision. Like people got their hands on an earlier revision is what I should say, and didn't get the final draft or the final version. Which happens because press releases get tweaked and moved around and chopped up to the very last possible moment. Trust me. This is part of what I do for a living. I know how press releases are oftentimes put together. It's not always the case, but to no one's surprise does it happen where it's like revisions happen and then these revisions and last minute changes, sometimes things slip up. That's why you try to not leave everything to the last minute so that you're secure in what you're putting out. But sometimes there's a little slip up. Human error is a thing. Until AI takes all our jobs away, there's still such a thing as human error. So I kind of think that this is a whole lot of. It turned out to be a whole big story because then people started reporting on it. Then CM Punk got mad. And it all blew up and it really distracted from the news, from the big news. This whole press release brouhaha. Again, want to emphasize, I think that this was just, an earlier revision, a previous revision that was put in the hands of some people, and the final proof copy was put out after, and people were able to see the changes. But I don't think there's anything more sinister than that. I think Toni had it taken out because I think his big announcement is we're doing a show in Chicago and CM Punk is going to be there. We're going to talk about this in a bit, but I think that's what his big announcement is going to be. And I think he just wanted that out of the press release to have a little something for himself. Because I'm sure he realizes that it's probably more impactful for wrestling fans, for AEW fans, than it is for advertisers. But I digress. This turned into a whole thing because people started reporting on it. CM Punk started getting mad. And it all distracted the attention from the fact that AEW has indeed confirmed Collision Saturday night starting June 17. I should know this on the top of my head. Yes, June 17. I should know this without any consideration, but no, we went really deep in CM Punk and Brian Alvarez lore, which I'm not going to talk about because I really don't think it's all that interesting. It's only interesting if you're into wrestling media, and which is fine, essentially. And there are wonderful podcasts out there that are going to be dealing with this situation and really breaking it down and probably doing a better job than I would do. But you're here to listen to an AEW Dynamite review, so we're not going to talk about Twitter drama and all that. That's not what I do here. That's just not what I'm going to do. I'm going to steer away from all of this for now. Let's see what we do on the Mr. Warren Hayes Show podcast next Tuesday, though. That might be a little fun. But everything got derailed, and we sort of lost the plot on the story, which was the announcement of the Collision show, and how present AEW was at these upfronts. Graphics everywhere. They featured the Lucha Bros. They featured Jade Cargill. They featured Jeff Jarrett, among others. It was just it was a huge presence. And I was talking about this Tuesday on how minimal the presence of WWE was at the NBC, Universal, and Fox upfronts, which led us to speculate, to believe that probably they're still negotiating, or the window of exclusive negotiations is about to close, so WWE is going to shop around a little more. In this circumstance here, unlike what many were expecting, despite not being reported from any truly reputable sources, and myself, I was like, well, this will probably happen. Everyone's talking about it. It's probably going to happen. But the money deal, the rights deal was not announced, not even discussed. It wasn't announced at all, which could lead us to assume that AEW and Warner Bros. Are still negotiating, but we got to be close to a negotiation, closing everything off. We have to be close to that if we're fronting AEW strongly at the upfronts and announcing a new show. You know what I mean? Like, I'm pretty sure, Tony Khan isn't going to bail in July and be like, no, it's like, no, well, the negotiations fell through. We're going to Access TV. I don't think so. You know what I mean? So there's got to be at least a handshake. There's got to be something that everyone's building on here. Maybe maybe there's no ink to paper yet, but I don't think. I think it would be unusual. How about that for a television network like that at their upfronts in front of their advertisers to push things that they don't have confirmation on, that they don't feel secure in having. So it's not a question of, I think it's irresponsible to say, oh, they don't have a deal. That the deal wasn't announced is a little surprising, maybe, but to think that they don't have a deal, I don't think that's the thing. I don't think it makes sense. Not with the way they were presented, and not just the fact that they announced Collision, I think is enough of an indicator that we're very close to settling the deal and officially announcing it. But we're not quite there yet. We're just not quite there yet. But the show has been announced, and it's sort of been lost in all this CM Punk stuff, but it's still very good news, and it's still huge news for AEW. Even though we don't know the value, the dollar amount, even though we don't know it, it's still a pretty big fucking deal. It's still a big deal. But so yeah, look, that's the extent of all of this that I want to talk about for this review, because I think this was an eventful show, eventful enough that I feel like I need to take my time to really squeeze the juice out of a lot of stuff here. And if you're in the Mr. Warren Hayes Show Discord, which you should join, by the way, link is in the description. If you're a member of the Discord, you probably know. You've probably seen me expressing my discontentment over discontentment. Maybe it's just discontent. Expressing my discontent over a lot of decisions that were being made on the show. And as I was, and I'm going to be completely transparent to all the members of the Discord who are out there, and it's like, oh, old man Hayes, oh, he's so bitter. He hates the show now. We're all going to calm down. And as I was putting my notes together, I realized that my problem isn't necessarily with the show. There's some things on the show that I have substantial issues with, but there are things that I think the things that bothered me most had nothing to do with the Dynamite per se, but more so with Double or Nothing. And I think the best way to express this. So yeah, overall, basically, I liked the show more than I originally thought. As I was, like I said, I'm doing the, slapping my notes together, rereading all, I got my little notebook and I'm rereading all my notes, and I'm like, you know what? This was better than I felt. And then I was able to zero in on the reasons why I didn't like it. And this is why I don't like doing instant reactions, because I like I tell you, I like to think about things. I wouldn't have had this problem if I did this tomorrow morning. I wouldn't be, I would have been completely refreshed. I wouldn't even be talking about this. I wouldn't be, exposing myself like I am right now. But there are things on the show that happened that affected Double or Nothing that really irked me to the degree that it tainted what I thought, tainted what was in reality a pretty good episode of Dynamite. Solid. Was it as, I don't think it's on par with the show that we had last week. I don't think it's one of the all-time great Dynamites, but it's not a bad one. It's not mediocre. I thought it was good. But the things that, the bad things sort of dragged it down for me unjustly. But I'll give you an example. Straight off the bat, I'll give you an example why of a thing that sort of irked me. Wardlow comes out in street clothes. That's the first thing of the night. We're starting with a sandwich with a promo. Opening promo, main event promo. It's not your boy Warren's favorite way to go with a show, but in both these circumstances, they were eventful. There was stuff happening. So, and look, it's not as if we're sitting around listening to 7 minutes of community theater either. Stuff happened here. So we get passes here to a degree. I'll stop being nebulous here. Let's just get to it. He says Christian Cage made a lot of promises last week, like spitting in his face, so he wants him to come to the ring and spit in his face. So Christian Cage obliges. Luchasaurus is with him. They exchange some unmiked face-to-face words. Christian, goes back to snort one up, to roll one in the back of his throat, to get all the oyster juice all like rumbling together into a nice gushy ball of phlegm. You know what I'm talking about? But he can't lay it off because Wardlow's all over him, starts beating him down. And then Wardlow and Luchasaurus fight. Low blow by Christian, boot from Luchasaurus. They bring in a ladder. Right up until that point, I'm like, fuck yeah, this rules. This is perfect. This is very good. This is what I want. More than a promo exchange. One that, let's be honest, Wardlow would have been destroyed in. Because I saw a few comments like that. Why didn't they let Christian Cage cut a promo? Because Wardlow doesn't have the chops to put up with him. This would have been the equivalent of John Cena Roman Reigns in-ring promo from a few years ago. You know the one I'm talking about. From 4-5 years ago, tops. You know exactly the one I'm talking about. It would have been this equivalent here. Christian would have eaten him alive, and there's nothing Wardlow could have done or said to save himself from that. So up until that point, I'm enjoying this. I'm like, sure, this is perfect heel stuff. Let's go. Then they bring in the ladder, and then I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ, no. Why do they feel they have to turn this title match into a ladder match? Because the minute they bring out the ladder in any kind of build like this, you're like, oh, they're making it a ladder match, right? That's how wrestling goes. They beat up Wardlow with the ladder, which was cool. Have him go through it, bends the ladder in half, which was cool. Kill switch on the ladder, which was cool. It's a good angle, but I'm disappointed that the TNT title match at Double or Nothing is turning into a ladder match. Again, I can't do ladder matches. I'm sick of them. And objectively speaking, this might be good. It might be. Everyone's like, oh, Christian Cage has experience with ladder matches. Yeah, but Christian Cage is not Brood Christian. He's not, late 90s, early 2000s Christian anymore, and his body is in a completely different shape. He's, effectively 20 to 30 years older. But is that how math works? Like, it's ridiculous to me that people are like, oh, this is going to be great. I have no guarantees that this is going to be great. And the last ladder match that was put on by a Tony Khan production had a guy end up with his foot pointing inward. When are we going to learn that there's no point to this? These ladder matches are no longer memorable. And we see them all the time. They are all over the place. There's going to be Money in the Bank that's going to come up. More ladder matches. There's always a fucking ladder match somewhere. I'm very disappointed. And if you're excited for this, good for you. But this wrinkle has effectively popped my bubble in my excitement for Christian Cage versus Wardlow. Now I'm like, who cares? People care, clearly. And the thing here, and I want to make this very, very clear. AEW pay-per-views have a tendency to be very good, up and down, and have a tendency to deliver on the matches, even on matches that I feel low on. There's usually something there that happens, right? I look at this. I look at this being put together, and I'm like, it does nothing for me because I'm sick of ladder matches. Because now I remember the last ladder match that happened in Ring of Honor because a guy got seriously hurt. A very visual and disgusting injury. Otherwise, it'd be another one. It'd just be another ladder match. I don't know. And then, Luchasaurus is going to get involved, and we all see this coming. We already practically see the format. You know what Wardlow needed? Because here's the thing: it's like, I can't blame anyone, who talk about, the TNT title is the hot potato title. I can't blame anyone who says, the TNT title, what is it even now? It needs to be heated up. It's kind of cold. These are all things I agree with. Like that I can't argue against. I'm like, sure, you're right. I got nothing. It's not an interesting title. The Atlantic, Mid-Atlantic, Super Atlantic International title, that one rules. But the TNT title is just sort of a thing, And what Wardlow needs here, more than anything else, what Wardlow needs is he'd need a good old-fashioned clean defense over a top guy, a name like, you know what I mean when I say top guy. I don't mean like tippy top, but, an established talent, non-jabron, Christian Cage, but now we're going to have all the ladder shenanigans. And that's not what Wardlow needs. Wardlow needs to beat the shit out of guys like the big athletic behemoth that he is. Not fool around with ladders and creating structures and bullshit like that. That's going to take away from how special this defense is going to be. Wrestling against Samoa Joe didn't have a bunch of bells and whistles. It was just like, let's go, let's beat each other up. That kind of ruled, really. That kind of ruled. This, I don't know why we're jumping to this tip. You see, this is the kind of stuff that really grinded my gears, and that ultimately I'm going to separate from my appreciation of the show. Because the opening match, Darby Allin and Orange Cassidy defeating Big Bill and Lee Moriarty was good, and I enjoyed this match. I thought the work was really solid. Seems to have been a big coming out party for Big Bill when it comes to pro wrestling fans, right? The former Big Cass, right? Where a lot of people thought, still felt like he was this big slouch. Came out tonight, turned up, had a great performance. Solid base. Really good stuff. Right down to eating a Code Red by Darby Allin. It's Lee Moriarty who ate the shit here, though. Beach break by by Orange Cassidy. Darby Allin goes up top. Orange Punch takes out Big Bill to make sure he doesn't interfere anymore. Coffin drop by Darby. But Darby, instead of ending the match, picks him up and wins the match with the headlock takeover. We all know what that means. And just to make sure that they talked about it a little later with Renee. I thought this was a very fun opener. I thought this was good. I got nothing to say. Orange Cassidy continues to be the workhorse. I don't know what to tell you. This was he just continues to be this glue that this mid card needs. He's reliable. He's over. His streak is meaningful. I'm not going to rehash that again. Darby Allin, I thought he looked great for his upcoming match. That's the idea. This is what we're going to be doing tonight. We're going to have all of the pillars get into matches tonight to sort of make a point, right? Establish themselves for the show in 2 weeks, 10 days. Oh, I like this. It made a lot of sense. Darby looked good. Of course, he was the one to get the win here, paired up with, Uber Babyface. It just worked. It was a good pairing, good team, good match. Alex Marvez is in the parking lot of the arena. He's trying to interview the Young Bucks, but they get attacked by the Blackpool Combat Club. I was going to say the British pool. But they get attacked by the BCC. We'll be revisiting this later. Wardlow's backstage. He's being interviewed by Rene Paquette. He's not only backstage, he's in the trainer's room. He's getting examined. Arn Anderson storms in and he's mad that Wardlow told him to stay behind. Yeah, because Arn Anderson didn't follow him out. Wardlow says, I asked you to stay behind because I knew this was going to happen. And this is where we get the challenge for the ladder match. I've already said my piece on that. Back from commercial, Rene Paquette is interviewing a very tired Orange Cassidy. This is the beautiful dichotomy of Orange Cassidy, where he's a fighting champion. He's awesome, great defenses, but he's like, I'm so tired. Like, this is his gimmick, right? The gimmick is like low effort, but now he's putting in effort, and week after week he's just like, oh, I can't do this anymore, kind of thing. But yet he's still pushing forward. Renee says, he says that a lot of people want a shot at his international championship. So, if anyone wants a shot, he makes an open challenge basically for Double or Nothing. If anyone wants a shot, go tell Tony Khan and let him know. Later on, we get another segment. Let's just weave this one in here, even though we're breaking the space-time barrier here. A little later on, Renee reconvenes with Orange Cassidy, and she tells him, look, Tony Khan got 20 people to come up to answer the open challenge. So Orange Cassidy's like, all right, I'll fight them all. I'll fight them all in a 21-man battle royal, right? 21 because we're in Vegas, right? So a 21-man battle royal. Now, I hate this utterly and completely. And I'll tell you why. See, this is another thing. Another thing that's irking me about Double or Nothing. And I'll tell you why I'll tell you why I hate this, because this is a disservice to the Orange Cassidy story that we've been telling. This is a complete left turn, because for 20 plus defenses now, for weeks upon weeks upon weeks, Orange Cassidy has been out every week defending this title one-on-one and winning. He's a fighting champion. And I get that this connects with the gimmick. Again, don't get me wrong. I understand that this makes sense for Orange Cassidy to do it because he's so nonchalant about his challenges. He's like, I'll just fight everyone. I don't care. So I understand. But as I like to remind you, just because I understand something doesn't mean I like it. And I don't like this, because Cassidy should have had a single challenger, and particularly a dastardly heel, to come in at Double or Nothing and use all of his weaknesses that have been becoming apparent week after week. The arm, right? First and foremost, the arm, the neck is becoming an issue. He's tired. There should have been one guy brought in to take the title, a heel, putting all of Orange Cassidy's issues, using all of his issues to his advantage. That's what I'm trying to say. It's just as simple as that. I don't know why we're trying to make this more complicated than it is and dumping him into a 21-man battle royal. I hate this so much. I hate this so much. Could not have disenchanted me more to seeing Orange Cassidy with the belt at Double or Nothing. This doesn't make it more interesting. It doesn't make it more spectacular. Is this a way for Toni to give a pay-per-view payday to a bunch of guys on the road? Sure, but I don't care as a fan. Maybe the business side of things, maybe, Toni wants to celebrate, getting the new deal and whatnot, the new TV show, and it's like, hey, everybody gets to party, whatever. I'm not into it. I think this is poor booking. When you literally could have heated up anyone starting tonight for the next 2 weeks, just tonight, next week, and right into the pay-per-view. Could have been anyone. Any proper heel you had. You could have just shoved them in there and made it happen. Sammy Guevara squashes Exodus Prime, who is not a Transformer. Sammy cut a very basic promo afterwards, and I still don't think Sammy Guevara is a good promo. And this is not a thing where it's just, oh, everyone hates Sammy. No. Like, this squash was all right. It's what it is, and he looks strong coming out of it. That's the idea. But I said this a few weeks ago when he cut his promo, that fiery promo, like for Sammy has to force the fire. He has to come off he has to speak loudly, kind of like me, to sound interesting, kind of like me. Don't worry, I'm self-aware. But it feels forced. When he does his promos, they feel forced, and he feels like he's cranking the fire where he's like, I gotta, and he uses the same cadence moving up, to try and get a reaction from the crowd. It's like, it's very create a wrestler, basic in-ring, fiery babyface promo when he just doesn't have those affinities. I'm back to seeing discussions on, oh, Sammy should become a babyface again. He's so good as a babyface, but he's not. I never liked Sammy as a babyface. I always thought he was he is much more successful as a heel. So he shouldn't have to be cutting these fiery babyface promos where he's talking about, hey, this is where I've been, going up and down the roads here in Texas. Come on. He doesn't have the chops. Jay Lethal, Jeff Jarrett, Sanjay Dutt, and Satnam Singh hit the ramp. They're coming out to make their entrance. They're coming down the ramp, but as they're coming down, FTR jumped them from behind. They shove Satnam Singh off the stage. He just crashes through tables. And then the rest of them, well, at least FTR and Jarrett and Lethal, they start brawling all the way up to the ring. Lethal is whipping Dax Harwood with his belt, but Dax starts tearing off his pants. And these are not tearaway pants. Like, I don't know if this was a rib, but we've got Jay Lethal in his underwear exposed, and he's got like he's got the pants torn off. He's got a full leg torn off. I was giggling the whole way. I thought that was great. I thought it was fantastic. FTR get Jarrett in the ring, but okay, what date are we? May 2023. Get ready, folks. But Karen Jarrett appears out of nowhere on the apron and takes out Cash Wheeler with a low blow. Jarrett lands the stroke on Dax, and then they do stereo El Kabongs. on the on FTR because they had 2 guitars. Ladies and gentlemen, Karen Jarrett is now with us. I got nothing except this really goofy smile. I'm like, what am I supposed to make of this? What are we supposed to make? Like, did anyone in the audience, did people in the nosebleeds go, hey, that's Karen Jarrett down there? Look, everything is TNA. Everything is TNA. I don't know what to tell you. It's a revival. This is wild. Am I surprised that Jeff Jarrett got his wife a job as on-air talent? No, of course not. But the absurdity of this group of people, Lethal, Jarrett, Dutt, Satnam, which is already just, meta. It's like those wrestling simulators, right? TWC or whatever. It's you're throwing guys together and say, here's the group, and then you're bringing back Karen Jarrett on top of all of this. Dear Lord. I like this because it's the absurdity of professional wrestling shining through. I cannot but not just get a kick out of this. The more things are going here right now, the more I feel like FTR are dropping the titles at Double or Nothing. Let me tell you what. Renee Paquette is backstage interviewing Darby Allin. That's when we talk about, what's the meaning of the headlock? The side headlock takeover. We know. Sammy Guevara comes in, and now it's like, we got to band together to make MJF lose, and they're fist bumping, and now all the baby faces. Now Sammy's a baby face now in this because he got fucked over by MJF. Again, I understand his motivations. I'm saving it all for very shortly. But they all fist bump, and now they're all friends now. Now they're all like, we all respect each other. We all hate Max. Everyone against Max now. What else we got? The Outcasts. The Outcasts. Team of Ruby Soho and Toni Storm. They are they defeated. Why am I hesitating? Dr. Britt Baker and Hikaru Shida in a fun match. I enjoyed this match once again. So there you go. No, but for real, I enjoyed this match once more. Meaning there's another match that I enjoyed here. And, Shida took the charge here. She took charge of this match. She really got a lot of shine here. She gets the hot tag where she pummels Ruby Soho with some strikes, does a dive to the floor, a Falcon Arrow. She and Britt do a suplex meteoric combo. Britt Baker lands an air raid crash and a stomp on Toni Storm, but Saraya interferes. Toni Storm gets the spray, uses it on Baker to get the sneaky Storm Zero win. Still one of my favorite pile drivers in the business, the Storm Zero. This was supposed to be a trios match, but we learned earlier today that Jamie Hayter is injured, and I thought that this was a kayfabe injury because she's been selling an injury for the past 2-3 weeks. But turns out, no, it's legitimate. So she was pulled from the match tonight. But that didn't keep Toni Storm a little later on in the evening. Might as well talk about it right now. That didn't keep Toni Storm from cutting an unintentionally hilarious promo and if you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about, where she challenges Jamie Hayter for the title at Double or Nothing. So all signs point to this injury not being too severe, maybe just keeping Jamie off TV to make sure that she has the time to heal up and we're not tempting fate. I'm surprised, shocked to a degree that this is the outcome of this story, that we're getting Toni Storm, Jamie Hayter at the pay-per-view, when I think everyone and their mother was expecting a blood and guts setup, for instance. That seemed to be the path we were going down, and that's not what we're getting. So I'm wondering why. And is this directly tied into the fact that Jamie Hayter is hurt and they don't want to risk her doing, a savage, brutal match, where there again, they could absolutely take precautions so that Jamie Hayter doesn't get hurt? Because look, you have more chances of getting legitimately hurt in a one-on-one match where, you're performing, all eyes are on just two athletes and they're doing their thing. If you're doing the blood and guts thing and you're separated between, 7, 8, 9 10 other people, whatever, you're separated by, not the attention's not always on you, and you can do some smoke and mirrors a lot easier to make sure that you're not putting that person too much in risk. I'm not saying Jamie should work injured. What I'm saying is that if we are afraid of that she might get more injured or that she might aggravate her injury or whatever, the chances of there are more paths you can take to mask the injury or that's not mask the injury, but reduce her participation in a match, in a multi-person match, like a blood and guts thing, as opposed to having her go one-on-one, be the champ, and just be Jamie Hayter. So it's a bit of a weird decision. I don't know where we're going with this anymore. I don't know where we're going with the outcasts and the pure bloods. What do they call them? Not the pure bloods, the OGs, the homegrown talent. I don't know what we're doing with this anymore. And I thought we were going to get some resolution, because you know what? I'm kind of doing this now. I'm like, okay, what's the next big bump here? What are we doing here moving forward? In a pay-per-view, being Double or Nothing, where we are getting gimmick matches galore, I don't know why suddenly the women is like, nope, straight up women's title match. I'm like, okay, all right then, whatever you say, Booker man. Then we get the big Tony Khan announcement. It says today has been one of the greatest days in the history of AEW, and he basically says that at the upfronts today. Warner Bros. Discovery announces the arrival of AEW Saturday Collision starting on June 17. He says Collision will be a hot ticket and a great live event. That's perfect. I mean, I'm not laughing at the vernacular. Like, promoters got to promote. Is it a hot ticket and a great live event? And it's cute. It's so cute. I just want to pinch his cheeks. And he announces the locations of the first 6 episodes as well, including a lot of the shows that we were expecting, right? Especially the one in the Saddle Dome in Calgary. And I gotta pat myself on the back for that one, because when they announced that show, you will recall when they announced that show a few months ago, and I was like, really, they're doing a house show? Because it was announced as a House Rules show. They're doing their house show at the Saddle Dome. They're doing a house show at the Saddle Dome. It is a 19,000 seater arena. Like, it's a big place, right in the midst of the Calgary Stampede. And I'm like, they're doing this on a Saturday night? And I was like, this makes no sense to me. I do not understand why they're doing this. And I pointed it out and said, this is a bizarre decision. Then we start hearing about the Saturday show, and I'm like, well, there you go. Bet that's why they settled it. Next thing you know, Warren Hayes right once again. I wish I could take a victory lap. I'm just not warmed up. My gams. I got to watch my gams. I'm not, I haven't done my stretches. I'm not ready to. I can't take a victory lap. Not right now. I'm sorry. Got to watch my asthma. I haven't, got to treat that. Take my, my inhalers. Just to, I'm not ready. I'm not ready to do it yet. Also of note, and this is very interesting because I'm pretty sure this was not on the schedule, but they've added a Collision taping the night before Forbidden Door in Toronto at the Scotiabank Centre. And I'm pretty sure this is a new date. And I'm pretty sure that I'm going to be in Toronto on the Saturday. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to probably find a way to get some tickets to go see that show as well. Why not? I'm already in town. So that's very cool. That's very cool. So that means we're going to get the finals of the Owen on a Saturday night at the Calgary Saddle Dome during the Calgary Stampede. That's going to be, god damn, that's going to rule. That's going to be fantastic. And next week, we're not done with the announcements because next week, he's going to tell us where the premiere episode will be airing from. So he still has the CM Punk news, like just right in his pocket, just right here, close to his fuzzy little heart, right here. And he's like, oh, we're going to keep that for next week. Probably CM Punk, right? But I'm like, don't we already know that it's at the Chicago, don't we already know? Isn't isn't the United Center booked for this? We've got the Wintrust Arena. Correct me if I'm wrong, please go right ahead in the comments, and if I'm wrong here, look, instead of spreading false information, right? AEW United Center in 2023, right? Yeah, of course, these are all still rumors, but look, I've got a report that dates back to April here, because there is a show booked at the United Center. Things have yet to be finalized, right? Because there's a June 17 show at the United Center, which is a Saturday night, which is likely the debut of the new weekly show. Is it just that it hasn't been officially announced by AEW yet? Because the show at the Wintrust Arena a few days later, which is a Dynamite, right? That's already done. Look, the AEW, there you go. AEW will also be in Chicago on Wednesday, June 21st. So after the Collision show, a week after, on June 21st, which is in the Chicago area, which is not in Chicago like the United Center is. Shout out to all my Chicagoites who want to make sure that I keep the divisions clear, that not everything in Chicago is Chicago. Okay, so I guess it hasn't been announced yet, but I feel like it's old hat news, and I'm like, well, don't we already know this? But I guess not. And apparently the show's going to be called The Second Coming. But look, hey, it's CM Punk. As I keep telling y'all, it's not a question of if he's going to blow up again. It's a question of when. And he flew mighty close to the sun today. Mighty close to the sun. And look, I think we're going to save this for Tuesday. We're not going to waste too much time on it. But hey, look, again, big news for AEW, Saturday Collision. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. I'm excited to hear more about it. We're going to let all of this get packed in, and we'll chat about it once there's more meat on the bone this Tuesday. Because honestly, between now and next Tuesday, who the hell knows what CM Punk is going to do? Like I said, like he flew very close to the sun today. CM Punk, of all people, telling people today to, go offline and go outside and touch some grass while he's pulling out old emails that he has kept as receipts from 2009. So I'm like, all right, listen, brother. But again, we're not talking about this tonight. Falls Count Anywhere. Roderick Strong defeated Chris Jericho, match of the night. This was a fucking blast is what this one. Tons of fun. Starts in the ring, chops, and Roddy does the running elbows. It spills to the floor, and they fight right into the audience, their chests blistering red. Roddy's chest at the end just looked like hell. Just junk, atrophied. They go up the stairs and into the concourse, and I gotta tell you, once they hit the concourse, that audience was awesome. They all ran out, and they were all coming out like a mob, and you had the incredible visual of security holding them back and pushing dudes back, keeping them away. There was one guy, at one point I even noticed, there's a camera guy who tries to come in forward, and the security guy just pushes him away, and the camera guy's like, whoa, dude, I'm just trying to do my job. Like you see the camera go, no. That's like a $30,000 television camera. Shoving them around. And that visual of having that hot mob, right, all around and security having a hard time keeping these people away. Like you could see there was a couple of dudes that I had spotted like, oh, that guy's trouble, that guy's trouble, that guy's trouble. And they were trying to keep them away. It ruled. It was fantastic. And it added so much. If you're going to do the spilling into the audience, fighting into the concourse stuff, do it like this with a sea of human bodies and the security team looking like officers at a G20 conference trying to keep protesters away. Like it ruled. It was a great visual. Anyway, Roderick Strong gets suplexed through a table by Chris Jericho. They fight on a ledge over some stairs. The camera coming in, into the stairwell. I didn't see the ledge at first. I don't think anyone did. So when Roderick Strong is tossing Chris Jericho over the rail, I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Don't kill him for real. That got some good sweats going. And they're just whacking each other with everything. Roderick Strong throws some cuddlery and some Mr. Softy and Jericho, and he takes a good face full of just good stuff, fantastic stuff. They stagger outside, which of course only leads to one thing: Adam Cole being out there waiting for Chris Jericho, because Adam Cole barred from the arena because of all the stupid ass paperwork. God, I hate paperwork in wrestling. It's so fucking boring. But when they start going outside, I'm like, oh, okay. And Adam Cole was there, and he beat up Chris Jericho. Roderick Strong lands the knee, gets pinned Jericho. 1, 2, 3, we're good. Roderick Strong wins his singles debut. Again, Chris Jericho burying all the talent. Just like never does any jobs, never puts anyone over. Right? First time encounter with this Roderick Strong character. Puts him over. Gets the pin. And the other thing that I really liked about this, on top of, how fun of a brawl this was, is how the baby faces here were just so fucking smart. They outsmarted uber heel, master manipulator Chris Jericho. He just got suckered into this one. The baby faces had the advantage here. And you know what? It also works for Adam Cole. Cannot be a dumb babyface because he's too smart of a heel. This is something that he would absolutely do in his heel persona. Right? He would absolutely like come up with this plan with his cronies, you know? So it's just an extension of Adam Cole. This works for Adam Cole's character regardless. I like this a lot. Fun times. Jack Perry defeated Rush. I enjoyed this match, but with multiple caveats that avoid me from going hard on this match. Going real excited because, well, let's talk about it. Slow build, which I don't have an issue with. Unless it doesn't cook. But this match cooked. Rush beats the tar, right, out of Jungle Boy at first, ramming him incessantly into the barricade. Just like over and over and over again. And it's violent and it's savage. And I like it. Causes Jack Perry to bleed. Good stuff. We're back in the ring after a while. Jack Perry locks in the snare trap. But Rush fights through it, reaches the ropes. Problem number one that I have with this match. First major problem I have with this match. The snare trap is one of Jungle Boy's finishers, if not like it's a submission finisher. And usually when he slaps it on, match is done, right? It's one of these deals where it always feels protected and it's like clop it in, tap, 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 we gotta go. Rush fought out of this. Interesting. Don't think it's a good look. Let's continue. They trade chops on the apron, and it ends with Rush tossing Jungle Boy overhead with the belly-to-belly suplex, which was just fantastic. Rush is on the apron, right? Because he's not bumping. You know. Back in the ring, Rush pummels Jungle Boy in the corner. Jungle Boy rolls him up for a flash pin. This is my second problem with the match. Jungle Boy, who we have established that we are, or at least that over the past numerous weeks, we have been conditioned to believe that he is a potential number one contender for the world title, that we have to see him credibly in this regard, is unable to put mid-carder Rush away. Can't put him away with his finisher, with his submission finisher. Can't put him away with any move. He just got the shit beat out of him and rolled him up for a flash win. Not unlike a certain American Nightmare in Puerto Rico that people panned. I'm going the same round here because it's the same type of story you're telling here, where you're supposed to be establishing a guy as a top guy. But for some reason, Darby Allin gets the big win for his team, finishes with the coffin drop, his finisher, but then on top of that, sends a message with the headlock takeover, right? So we get like Darby, he's a guy. Sammy squashes a jabron. He's a guy. Jungle Boy gets put in a match with a mid-card guy. A solidly positioned mid-card guy. There's no like, oh, well, you know, he tangled with world champions. No. Rush is absolutely mid-card. And this guy, who is going to be part of a main event in 10 days, being Jungle Boy, can't put this dude away. He has to get a flash pin. What are we doing here? Especially if, in my opinion, Jungle Boy is the guy who's coming across as the weakest of the three challenger pillars. I don't get this at all. Now, my brain goes to a bunch of places. I try to, think about things. Or should we start getting as sinister as pondering whether or not Rush, where Rush is like, well, maybe did he finesse this finish? Why are we looking out for Rush here? Why are we trying to make sure that he doesn't look like a disaster? You got an answer for me? Why couldn't Rush have eaten a finisher from a guy who is being positioned as a top guy? Rush did his job perfectly, but this is what I talk about when I'm telling y'all about, everyone gets real excited for him. And like, just be wary of Rush. Because when he decides that he's not really going to work, he's not really going to work. And I kind of feel that that's kind of what we got. Got Jungle Boy doing all of the big bumps and I get that's what we were doing. Don't get me wrong, that's fine. But then when you couple this with the finish of a flash pin, did Rush go see Tony Khan and pull a, look, this isn't going to work for me, brother. I'm supposed to be a star here. Why are you having me put over other guys? Why aren't other guys putting me over? And if you're surprised by this, by what I'm saying, well, let this be your introduction to backstage political Rush. He knows what he's doing. He put on some fantastic performances once he got signed in AEW, and I have nothing to say about them, that they were great. But then again, I'm like, I just keep him at arm's length, where I'm like, well, of course Rush just got signed for the big bucks. He wants to show his boss that he invested his money in the right place, so he's laying it in, he's going hard to impress the boss man. Now the boss man's not using him, not booking him in big programs for the pape. Rush is like, I don't know. Look, I don't know. I'm just throwing this out there. I'm not saying that he has creative control, and I don't, maybe this was Tony's plan from start to finish, but this feels like Rush finessing. I don't know what to tell you. And I think it ultimately makes Jungle Boy look like the geekiest of the three. The other Ingobernables attack Jungle Boy after the match. The two other pillars come out to drive them away, because now they're all looking out for each other, because they all want to beat MJF now, and now they're all like staring at each other. Now there's all this mutual respect. I am still on the same path. This does nothing for me. This has been a miserable build for a main event, and all of the tropes that happened in this build have all been tropes that I dislike tremendously, and I have to stay consistent on this, because the other company does all of this stuff all the time, and I don't like it. This has been the most WWE build to a pay-per-view, headlined by the most WWE type match possible, a fatal four-way for a championship. I've got nothing for this. Nothing. No interest, no nothing. Now, again, is the match going to rule? Probably. But then again, a couple of weeks ago, we had a tag team match between all four pillars where I shrugged. I was like, what are we doing? Nothing here made me go, oh shit, we've got some sparks of genius here going on. I'm excited for I got nothing for you. Darby's going to do some spots. Sammy's going to do some spots. They're all going to do some spots. I don't know what to tell you. And now MJF is worried, right? Because now we see MJF backstage and he's pissed off, and he whacks the microphone out of Renee's hand when she tries to ask him, how do you feel about the pillars coming together to sort of take you out? And he's sort of pissed off now. It's like, it's all so unnecessary, and I don't like it. Build me a challenger, one challenger for the world title. That's all you need to do. All of this is extraneous, and it's exposing dudes in the meantime. Showing clearly that a lot of these guys are not ready, and they're going to have to work harder now to convince the audience that they are top guy material. And then, and then we're gonna get to the pay-per-view, and like I said, the match will probably be great, but ultimately it doesn't matter. And I'm not alone in this. From a couple of days ago, I haven't checked recently, but Double or Nothing was set up for like 9,100 seats. They still had over 1,000 tickets left, like 1,300, 1,200, 1,300, something to that effect. In Vegas, in the same venue last year, Double or Nothing, over 14,000 tickets distributed. Now they can't even break 10K off of the build of this pay-per-view. And I can't blame anyone for not being excited for this match. I think there's other factors. We'll have an opportunity to talk about it because I am going to do a preview show. I think there's other factors other than that, but the build here has to mean something. This has to be significant. If we're going to turn and point the finger at our world champions when business is good, it's like, look, who was world champion during this boom period? Oh, it was so-and-so and so-and-so. That's good business. It's smart. So when it's the opposite that happens, when your shows aren't drawing as hard, well, then you have to look at the builds. You have to look at who's on the card. What are we doing? And I don't think this is doing it. I don't think it's doing it universally for most people. I think, frankly, and I say this with love, because I believe that only the most hardcore freakazoids are excited about Double or Nothing. Like, excited. Not looking forward to, not, oh yeah, I'm going to watch it, excited. And I love using the term freakazoid. We have to reclaim the term freakazoid. It has to, let's make it ours. I say that lovingly. But that's the point. And I think that a lot of the hardcore freakazoids are blinded by their love here, and they're not realizing that they're being spoon-fed very un-AEW-like programming, the reasons that made things that did not contribute to the success of AEW, why they liked AEW in the first place, and that actually resembles a little too close what's happening in WWE when AEW should be the alternative. I'm not throwing any alarms. I'm not throwing anything around, but, let's talk again when we know what kind of guaranteed money we have, because guaranteed money booking is something we have to be cautious about. And again, I'll say this one more time. AEW Dynamite is my favorite weekly professional wrestling show. It is my favorite. That's why I do a specific review on it, because I like to take the time to talk about it and exchange my thoughts to you, and then we have little conversations in the comments and so on and so forth. I enjoy that because I feel it's a show that is worth being dissected on a weekly basis. That's why I took it off of the MrWarrenHayes show proper, so that we could have a space to talk about it without being swarmed over by all the other news happening in the world of pro wrestling. So I love this show. It's my favorite show. But I'm not going to say it here and tell you every week, this is a big scoop of Nutella, or whatever your big scoop of deliciousness is. Pecan ice cream, or who knows? Pistachio, is that what people like? I can't do that because it's not great every week. And there's very recent weeks that it has not been good. And there are things that connect on the show unilaterally that are just consistently great. And the things that don't work have to be pointed out, and we have to point out where they're not working. Because why? Because criticism always comes from a place of love. Always. Get Jay White versus Juice Robinson with him at ringside. He didn't fight Juice Robinson, but he fought Ricky Starks. You know what? And here we go again. Here we go. You know what? This was very good until we got to the ending. Okay? First and foremost, pyro for Ricky Starks and some pretty cool pyro between you and I. I thought it was pretty cool. Now, is a guy who is on his way out of the company, as many people are pretending, is a guy going out of the company going to get a new entrance in pyro and I like the match. I'll tell you what, I like the match. I was excited to see Jay White wrestle. It had been a while. We got some Jay White stalling. There was a little more pep to his stalling than what he's used to doing in New Japan, where he's much more loose and but it worked. It still works. Jay White hits a hot shot. So a bunch of chops following a big back body drop by Ricky Starks. Suplex by White on the floor. Starks gets a hope spot. Lands an overhead belly to belly suplex and a DDT. White lands the Uranagi. Lots of solid action follows until Ricky Starks avoids a Blade Runner. He hits a spear, gets Jay White up for the Rochambeau. Jay White gouges the eyes out. Well, not out, but he, it's the groin of the face, let's not forget, to get out of the Rochambeau. And while the ref is distracted, Juice comes in with a chair, swings at Starks. Starks ducks. He hits Juice with it. Jay turns around. So does the ref. And Ricky's like, fuck it. Swings the chair right at Juice. Gets DQ'd. Jay White wins. And I'm like, what are we even doing here? What are we even doing here? And this pissed me off. So much. And this is one of the... And if you've been listening to my, the previous weeks leading up to this, you probably know why. Because at its very core, I do not understand how bad this feud has been fumbled. I don't understand why we haven't had Ricky Starks and Jay White, arguably two of the best mic workers in pro wrestling that are in this company, that can banter with each other. Right? Two guys who are in complete control of their characters, of their personas, whatever you want to call them. And on top of that, magnificent mic workers. I don't know why these guys weren't sent out on a 9:15 going, here are two microphones, guys, go tear it up. Nothing, nada. It's all centered around Juice Robinson doing nonsense, and then we decide to put this match tonight on Dynamite. And I was like, this is weird. This is probably going to lead into something at the pay-per-view, which I still believe it will. Seeing this stupid ass finish. And again, what are we doing here? Who do we need to protect? Are we protecting Jay White? We had to protect one of these two guys, right? To get this finish? Or we had to protect both guys is what I'm trying to say, excuse me. So, longtime listeners of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show, say it with me. If you got to protect both guys, don't run the match. Just don't. This was nonsense. And Jay White, this was his big singles outing, looks like a complete dork. He's looked like a dork since he's arrived. If I'm him, I have to be going home to my lovely wife at the end of the day, crawling into bed, looking up at the ceiling and thinking, what are they even doing? What am I doing here? What am I doing in this mid-card jambalaya? It makes no sense. None of this makes sense. I'm not saying throw him up into the world title picture, although you could. That's not what I'm saying. But Jay White has been mismanaged since his arrival. Not even using one of his biggest strengths, his quintessential strength is his character work, is his in-ring work, his storytelling, and part of that is his capacity to cut incredible promos. Ricky Starks, same. Why didn't these guys have weeks upon weeks of promo offs? Instead of trying to get Jungle Boy to force one out. We're getting the pillars doing, it's my turn to cut the promo schemes over weeks to disastrous results in some cases, failing to ignite this main event feud. Meanwhile, you've got two guys who could be lighting it up on the mid card right now. And you're like, no, we'll just... It's absurd. And this finish is absurd. If you have to protect both guys, don't run the match. So it's clearly leading into something for Double or Nothing. But I can't... I'm telling you. Y'all think I'm like, oh, old man Hayes he hates everything. Just wait. Let's mark these down on a calendar somewhere. And then the main event promo. Toni Schiavone is going to be interviewing Don Callis, who comes out. He's got security watching out, making sure that the Elite don't show up. Callis gets in the ring. He says he's the victim in this scenario after all, he's done everything for Kenny Omega. He can't believe what Kenny Omega did to him. IWGP Heavyweight Championship, Omega Jericho at the Dome, AEW World Title. It's all because of him. Kenny's music hits. The security keep him. They congregate. There's about, a dozen guys or so. They're like, Kenny, stay back. And Kenny's like, oh, you guys want to fight me? Okay, here we go. And he starts taking them out one by one. And he's, realistically, he's not plowing through them. But then the Blackpool Combat Club arrive from behind to punk him out. Security doesn't do jack. The security actually goes to look after the guys who got taken out by Kenny, but they're not trying to break up the Blackpool Combat Club. They're like, no, not these dudes. We're not getting involved here. So they beat up Kenny on the ramp. Mox hits the ring, grabs the mic and says, the Blackpool Combat Club, we are the elite of professional wrestling. The Bucks music hits. They come out. They're a little banged up, but they brought plunder, 2x4s, trash cans, all sorts of stuff. Kenny goes up to meet them, and then Hangman Adam Page comes up. He is the pirate cowboy. Yeehaw! I'm trademarking that, by the way. And he comes out to an enormous reaction. I was stoked of seeing my boy Adam Page back again out here. And the Elite they run down to the ring. They clean house with their toys. They get Yuta in the ring. He eats everyone's finishers. Page gets on the mic and he confirms that he's back into the Elite, to a huge reaction from the audience, while in the meantime challenging the Blackpool Combat Club at Double or Nothing for Anarchy in the Arena. And finally, something to get excited about on Double or Nothing. As it stands for your boy Warren Hayes right now, this is a one-match show, and this is it right here. People were like, oh, blood and blood. And I was like, no, I've been telling y'all for weeks, give us Anarchy in the Arena with these 8 guys. This is going to rock so hard. It's going to be so good. And you see, everything about the Elite Blackpool Combat Club feud has been spot on excellent. This has been compelling, dramatic, great story bumps, twists, turns, everything. Everything you want out of a great top tier professional wrestling angle, you got it here. And as I like to say, the Blackpool Combat Club has been the best thing in AEW, has been the most consistently great thing in AEW since January 2022 when it came together. January, when Bryan Danielson and Jon Moxley started their feud. Since that genesis right there, it's been nothing but hits. What do you want from me? This is excellent stuff. And now there's one match at Double or Nothing. And yes, I'll say it again. There's one match at Double or Nothing that's got me excited. Double or Nothing as it stands on on May 17th. It is a one-match show. Everything else is going to happen. I'll be entertained, but nothing's got me excited. This is what I'm buying the pay-per-view for. I want to see this shit live. It's going to be fantastic. And on top of that, it's kicking off Kenny Omega's extraordinary upcoming summer, where we're likely going to get Omega Ospreay 2. We're probably going to get Takeshita Omega. Don't forget, Konosuke Takeshita was being finessed by Don Callis. You know, everyone's like, where's Takeshita? Where's Takeshita? Oh, don't worry. Don't worry. I think they have a plan for this. The news, the CM Punk stuff and all of that, it's all overshadowing a very simple fact, is that AEW is stacking up its summer to have a mind-blowing summer season. It's just as simple and direct as that. And I cannot wait to see this match here. I'm excited for it. So, overall, I thought I enjoyed the show. I thought it delivered. I don't think it's an all-timer. I don't think it's great, but the action was solid throughout. Big highlight with the JerichoRoderick Strong match. Big highlight being the return of Hangman Adam Page and the Elite and all. Just the perfect way to end the show. Lots of little things that really bug me, but really do, as you saw, involve Double or Nothing more than Dynamite itself. Look, I took the time to just think about everything. Otherwise, I would have been a lot more cranky and I would have buried this show a little more. But if I had just jumped in directly. But yeah, I took the time, I reread my notes. I'm like, you know what? Yeah, this rule. Be clear-headed, Warren. And we got this now. So this was good. I enjoyed myself, and I hope you enjoyed this review. We're gonna wrap it up here. Leave a like if you're on YouTube. Leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or a 5-star rating on Spotify if you're so inclined, because those things help out quite a bit. Oh, and by the way, I will be back this weekend for an AEW Double or Nothing preview show, and I'm going to be joined by Jesse Collins from the Gentleman's Wrestling Podcast on the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. He's going to be joining me. We're going to be breaking down the entire show. It's going to be a good one, and I hope you're here for that. I'm stoked for it. Otherwise, I will be back on Tuesday for another live recording of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes, 7 p.m. Eastern. Why don't you come for that as well? Subscribe, hit the bell. There's a lot of great content coming your way, but I hope you have a great rest of your week, and I'll see you next time.